Hi, this is Shanna Landolt, host of the Pharma and Biotech Thought Leadership Podcast. I'm speaking today with Ed Gudaitis, Vice President and Country Manager Canada of Allergan Canada. Prior to Allergan, Ed was the former General Manager of Gilead Sciences Canada. Today we're talking about change and dealing with change and growth in the pharma and biotech industry. Ed, it's just great to have you here today.
That's great. Thanks, Shanna, for the opportunity to join you today, and looking forward to talking to you about the topic at hand.
Perfect. Now, I'm going to start a little bit prior to your experience at Allergan, and let's take a look at Gilead. What was it like for you working at Gilead at the very beginning? Were you employee number one?
I was actually employee number, I think it was about 7. So we had a sales team and a sales manager, but I came on board as the first general manager with a mandate to change the company from effectively a sales region operating in the U.S. to a full standing affiliate. So in that sense, it was really a start of a new chapter and started the sort of official launch of the company in Canada.
Excellent. Now, when you're that lean, you don't have the structure and support that you do when you're working for a larger company. What did you learn from that experience?
A couple things. First of all, that you can accomplish a lot by yourself. When I first joined, it was funny because in the first 2 weeks of joining the company, working from home, we had to basically do the following year's budget. And coming from a big company, you're used to models and support and all of the pieces that are there. And quickly you figure out, okay, if it's not there, then we can make it as we go. And I think you learn quickly the idea of sort of 80% good, get things done, move forward and execute. You roll up your sleeves and remember all those days when you were a product manager back in the past and you had to do things on your own. And so you really have to have that mindset of just roll up the sleeves, get it done. It won't be perfect, but it'll be good enough, and move forward. And the next time you do it, you'll get a little bit better and a little bit better, and just really keep moving forward, I think, is the key.
Great. It's almost like that philosophy is done is better than perfect.
Absolutely. 80% complete, fire it away, see what happens, modify it and change it. Don't aim for perfection. You're never going to hit it.
Now, in a period of 5 years, you led Gilead from $5 million in revenue to over $200 million in revenue. What do you attribute to that success? Because that's huge.
Yeah, I mean, I think, first thing I admit is we had some great products. We had, really great products in the HIV category, and some great partnerships with BMS with the launch of Atripla, which really changed the face of HIV treatment. So I think, we did have a strong product portfolio, but I think going even further than that, we had a great team. And I think that was one of the big factors was we had an experienced team that had the right attitude, came into the company with the right idea in mind to take on, old competitors, preconceived ideas, be entrepreneurial. And I think the team that we had really clicked and came together. And then I think we had the right culture and the right approach. I think we started a little bit as the underdog in the marketplace. At that time we were predominantly an HIV company. GSK was really the market leader. And I think we approached it from a one step at a time, build it, kind of grind out every day, every month, every year, and we were able to accomplish the things we did. And I think it was that combination of, obviously foundational, great products, great people around it, and then really, I think, an excellent culture to bring all of that together and execute well.
And then you championed Gilead's growth to be the 6th largest pharma company in Canada, with over $1 billion Canadian gross sales in 2015 and over 100 employees. Was there a tipping point, or what do you attribute to that growth?
I mean, a lot of that growth was driven by our entry into Hep C, so I think that was the major catalyst for the expansion and the explosion, was preparing for that approach and that new therapeutic area. We had a foundation in the HIV business that continued to grow and is still really a leading franchise for the country and for the company. And on top of that, we added this explosive therapeutic area that was when I came back from the U.S. in 2013, it was a year year of pre-launch activity, and then it was basically pull the trigger and see how much this thing can grow. And as you're right, it was a tremendous success. We literally, quadrupled the company's revenue, and from when I left, we really doubled the company in terms of size, in terms of employees in a very short period of time, which was great, but obviously brings some challenges with it as well in terms of how quickly you can scale and keep it sustainable.
You must have had person after person doing onboarding and
we
just
had
all sorts of activity.
Yeah, I mean, luckily we brought in groups of people in blocks, so we got that as good as we could get it, but it wasn't perfect. We had, as you said, we had new people coming in, onboarding, and more importantly, we had people having to learn new businesses, new processes, and just trying to keep up with the scale and magnitude of the business. So it was a really interesting experience. It was, you were pulled along with the growth, but always trying to get ahead of it one step if you could, to prepare for what the next month, the next 6 months, the next year would bring you.
Now, I'm curious, when you were at Gilead, you spent 2 years, from 2011 to 2013, in California, where you were the Senior Director Marketing U.S. HIV business. Now, what did you learn from that assignment in the U.S. that had you become a better general manager?
I think a couple things. I think the one thing you get when you always go to headquarters or a bigger site is your own personal connection, and so you get to be exposed to more senior leaders and be there, which then I think suits you for your next job, because you know who to pick up the phone and call to get things done. So that clearly was I think an interesting part of it. I think the being on the leading edge of the launch of 2 major products in the major franchise in the U.S. market, I think was a personal challenge to just be in front of that, to have all eyes of the organization on you, get out of your comfort zone, knowing the Canadian environment well and having to learn a new environment in the US, a new way of operating. There's a lot more zeros, a lot more people. The numbers are bigger. There's clearly more people involved. And I think one of the neat things about it too was for a company that was built as an HIV company, going to work in the headquarters environment in the U.S. market, where really everybody in the building had an opinion about your business, because they all had touched that business at some point in their career. You develop a little bit of a thicker skin, a little bit of a self-confidence, and an ability to sort of navigate where you got a lot of cooks in the kitchen, how to still be the master chef with all the sous chefs stepping in.
That's great. What made you decide to move to Allergan?
I think a couple things. One was my time at Gilead. I mean, I think I had achieved what I wanted to achieve when I set out to go there, and it was a great run, and certainly it's a great company and a great experience that I had there. But for me personally, it was a new challenge, something to do differently, and an opportunity to come to a company like Allergan, where there's a completely different challenge, where it's a much broader company, where it's a company that's still undergoing the transition and the interaction between Allergan and legacy activists. That's all still coming together in terms of an interaction, and some very new businesses. I spent all my career in very specialized businesses like oncology, HIV, Hep C. It's interesting to come to Allergan, where you have much different businesses, including a very strong, more consumer healthcare side of the business as well. So it was really those opportunities to come and learn some things new for me, try some things new from a management and business perspective, and just get experience in a much different organization than I've ever been involved in.
Now, before you joined Allergan, they went through some really large downsizing and cutbacks. What was it like to join a company that had just gone through that downsizing experience? Because from my experience in speaking with individuals and companies that have gone through downsizing, it can have individuals be a little protective, a little bit worried about their own futures, and that's a completely different culture than what you've been dealing with all that success at Gilead.
Right. I mean, I think that's one of the big things that in the last year that I've been here, we've tried to focus on, was to create a new culture. The first thing was create a one Allergan culture. So there still is for me, one of the key things I've said to people is I want to eliminate the language of I'm legacy, insert company name here.
Yes.
We are all one organization now. We're one company. So it's been an interesting challenge to try to create that identity, create a bit of a common culture from that perspective, to bring that together. And then it's been an important, as you said, I think it's one of the things here is I do appreciate people's resilience and their ability to change, but this organization has been through a lot of change. So one of the things that I've been doing in the last year is trying to provide people, what's that vision for 2017, 2018, 2019? Not that the road's going to be easy, and one of the things I've been communicating is that 2017 will still be a year of change. 2018 will start getting things a little bit better. 2019 will really start kind of hitting on all cylinders. but people need to see, where is this going? It's been a kind of a rough period, but as long as I see where things are going and I can buy into that vision, then I've got the team kind of coming with me. And so one of the things that we've really been doing this year from the very beginning is talking about, first and foremost, we're in it for patients. Second of all, what's the future? And third of all, how does that future impact you as an individual employee 2017, 2018, and get on this journey kind of going forward? And I said in a town hall about 6 months ago, now is the time at the organization here for us to kind of put the mergers and acquisitions behind us and start moving forward and get back to the boring business of running the business. And I think a lot of people gravitated towards that, which was a feeling that, okay, the turmoil is closing a little bit. At least now we have a sense of going forward where we're heading. And so that's been a big part of what we do in the last year, is to kind of create that vision.
Excellent. Ed, you're focused on building a bold culture at Allergan, and you're committed to making Allergan the best place to work and the best place to develop your career. So what does that look like as a general manager in your day-to-day actions to actually be creating that kind of culture where somebody can say, this is the best place for me to develop my career. I don't want to leave. I know I'm going to grow here.
Right. I mean, I think on the development side, it's really an opportunity to bring some of that entrepreneurial spirit that we had at Gilead here as well. And I think it's the bold aspect of it is very consistent in that idea, which is, we're a relatively large organization portfolio wise, but like most companies in Canada, we're relatively lean, structure wise. And I think the piece that we want to encourage people is you have a chance to own your business here. And by owning it, it is really the ability to take accountability for the results, take accountability for taking some risks. If you've got a good idea, bring it forward, which has been, I think, a bit of a challenge, is that it's an organization where, with all the mergers and acquisitions and turmoil in the last couple of years, people are a little bit reticent putting up their hand for the great idea. But as long as we can encourage people to do that's great. And we want people to have that feeling of, I can own the business, I can own the results, and I can take some risks and I can move some things forward. If we can bring that entrepreneurial spirit where people working here are owners of the business, then I think we're going to be in a good position going forward.
And how do you make it safe for people to put up their hand and contribute ideas?
I think it starts right with me and my leadership team, that one, we encourage people to come up with ideas. Two, that we manage ourselves, especially as senior leaders, that when we hear good ideas, we don't choke them off. And the typical idea of, I want you to be a risk taker, but when they come and present it, you roll your eyes and, that's not going to work. But I'm encouraging you to be risk taking. But let me tell you the reasons why your idea is not going to work, that you have to let that move forward. And I think you have to be you have to provide that filter as a senior leadership team to allow people to fail a little bit, that every project is not going to succeed right off the box. And I think as senior leaders, our job is to kind of create a buffer where people can fail below us. But I think the key thing is then to come back at them and challenge them in terms of, one, what did you learn? And two, what are you going to do differently? It's okay to fail, but it's also more important for me is to get those other two aspects of it right, which is, what did you learn? And what are you going to do in terms of plan B to kind of continue forward with this? And it really comes back to what we said at the very beginning of our conversation today, which is get it about 80% right. Get it in the market, let the market beat it up a little bit, and then quickly learn and move on from that. Don't be frozen into thinking that it's got to be perfect coming out of the box. And if you can create that environment, you can get some good things moving forward.
It's interesting that you talk about failure and entrepreneurship, because the two go hand in hand together.
Right. Absolutely. Right.
Yeah, it's interesting because a lot of entrepreneurs talk about failing your way forward, and that doesn't mean that everything is a failure, but if you don't have failure, you can't have creativity at the same time.
Right. I think you have to push, if you truly are pushing the envelope, you're going to try some things that haven't been done before. If it's guaranteed to work, then you're not pushing it far enough in my mind. So you are going to have some things that didn't work as planned. And I think that's always the key. No matter what program you run, no matter what initiative you launch, you're always going to have to look back on it and say, did it do what we thought it would do? Not quite. But you know what, if we're to do it again or to continue it forward, here's the two, three things we would change. That's the kind of learning organization that you want to create and that you want to encourage to have people have. Is it perfect here? Not yet. We're certainly, I think, trying to get people to come forward, but I think every time there's a little bit of success, it'll breed more success for us as we move along.
That sounds exciting.
It is. It is.
And what advice do you have for people in dealing with changing environments and changing company cultures? Because that's really a lot of pharma and biotech these days are going through mergers and acquisitions and change and whatnot, and that's not easy for a lot of people. So what advice do you have?
I think the first thing I would say to people is and I'll phrase it first from the perspective of people, both all employees, including senior leaders, as employees first, and then I'll talk a little bit about maybe what I would look at from the senior leadership perspective. But I would say for everybody, it is easy to say, but you really have to try to do it. Is try to control what you can control. At the end of the day, with all of this change and this cultural change, you have to, I think, look at things and say to yourself, you can get wrapped up in endless speculation. You can get up worrying about things. At the end of the day, what can you control? What can you do in terms of your day-to-day job to keep the ball moving forward? I think you have to be, in a sense, a little bit, shorter term in terms of your own personal planning. I think having, create yourself a 6-month plan. So with a lot of change going on, cut it up into smaller pieces. So what is your plan for the next 3 months? What's your personal plan for the next 6 months in terms of your job? You can get caught up with what is it going to be like in 18 months, 24 months? Oh, all the change that's coming. Okay, let's focus on, the next 3 months. Let's focus on the next 6 months. Let's at least keep things moving forward so that the momentum stays there. So it's still a good place to come to work for you personally. I think I would also know and encourage to people, and I say it all the time here, is you also have to be very honest with people, which is new cultures and change are going to be good for some folks, and for some folks it's not. And all I ever ask anybody is I please declare your intentions early. If I could, I would declare an amnesty day, which is just as long as then, and people can be very honest with themselves and with their teams and with management and just say, are you in for the new change? Yes, then you're in. Then we're all in and we're moving forward. And if the answer is I'm not, then that's okay as well, because I think it's naive to think that everybody's going to buy into the new direction and the new change. And I would rather have people declare early, I'm in or I'm out, and then we can work on those who say they're out. And I would say, in my experience over my career as well, it's the worst thing is to be involved in working somewhere where you just feel like it's not for me and it doesn't fit. So declare it early, be ready for it. And I think as leaders, we have to also be prepared to have those conversations with people, which is, here's the vision for the change. Here's how it's going to go. Be honest about how it's going to be a bit bumpy at first and it's going to take some time to get there, but then also be sensitive to the fact that at the end of the day, some people might be saying it's not for me, and accommodate that and think about that. If you're transparent and you're honest about it, both to yourself and to your team, and you kind of keep things focused on the, let's look at the next 3 months and 6 months, what we can control, I think you can work your way through it.
Excellent. Well, Ed, I think Allergan is in great hands with you leading the charge.
I hope so.
And it's been great having you on the Pharma and Biotech Thought Leadership Podcast. Thank you for being our guest today, Ed.
My pleasure, and thank you very much for the opportunity to chat a little bit about some favorite topics of mine. So thanks very much, Shanna.